Hello and welcome to the session. I'm Christopher Hamilton and I'll be talking about the future of live streaming for eSports and interactive gaming. I'll cover a little bit about myself and Genvid Technologies. I'll talk about massive interactive live events or miles. I'll continue with interactive streaming for spectators. And then I'll demo two of our oldest games and then hand the mic over to some studios we've been working with for some case studies. My name is Christopher Hamilton. I'm Director of Developer Relations in Europe for Genvid Technologies. I've been in the industry since 2007. Here are some of the better known companies that I've worked for on the left. I'm an American citizen who used to live in St. Petersburg, Russia, which is where I got my start in the gaming industry. And I've been based in Helsinki, Finland since 2014. I've been mainly in production and partner relation roles with a lot of experience in live ops at Rovio. I feel strongly about giving back to the community by working with various organizations, which you can see on the right. I am on the boards of the International Game Developers Association and the Finnish Game Jam. My undergraduate degree was on the environment and the media, so I'm also working on a UNEP initiative called Playing for the Planet. If anyone is interested in any of these initiatives, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. Genvid Technologies was founded in 2016 by some Square Enix veterans. It is a US-based startup with offices in New York, Montreal, LA, Tokyo, and Berlin. The company is backed by some leading game VCs like Galaxy Interactive and Makers Fund, and we have people from both of those funds on our board. We also have amazing advisors like ex-Square Enix CEO Yuichi Wada, digital media executive Matt Ball, Anna Sweet, who was instrumental in building Valve and Steam into what they are today, and JT Gleason, who was at Twitch for more than 8 years in key roles leading partner and developer relations. Here is our team of awesome people working out of those offices. Highly talented folks that are a lot of fun to work with. Many have worked at Blizzard, Riot, Square Enix, and Ubisoft and have rich experience in both game development and esports. You can see the variety in terms of ethnicity and gender, diversity in background, experience, and age, and we think it's important to have a diverse team to help us tackle a lot of the streaming experiences that we're helping companies create. And we're hiring, so check out our website for details. The media has covered us. If you haven't heard of us in terms of public streams, we've partnered with top esports broadcasters and interactive streaming and stats experts like Stats Helix to create interactive experiences for Twitch for the CounterStrike majors. We have powered the last 4 CounterStrike majors. Our mission is to power the future of interactive media. We believe people love shared experiences, particularly when their participation matters. Be it gaming, sports, or reality TV, these are the events that become water cooler moments in the office, or these days what people are chatting about in the random channel on Slack. We're already working with top tier platforms, leagues, and events to create these experiences. Games and traditional media are at a point of convergence, perhaps an ongoing evolution of convergence as media is trying to become more engaging, like games, and some games are addressing a larger audience of spectators by creating non gaming experiences and interactions for them. When talking about interactive streaming, it could be something like the Netflix choose your own adventure style movie Bandersnatch or the Zoom revolution where people are talking to one another and asking questions on live streams. Long story short, both sides are trying to be more interactive and increase their mass market appeal. This is happening now, and game developers should be thinking about this ongoing shift in paradigm and the new forms of gameplay that players and viewers can have together. And we'll touch upon that later when both I and my partners demo later. So this is about live ops and shared experiences. Massive interactive live events are what we call miles. Fortnite is organizing massive online events like DJ Marshmallow's performance last February that reached a reported 10 million viewers. only to be eclipsed by Party Royale anchored by Travis Scott in May, and that reached a staggering 12.3 million. When Epic founder Tim Sweeney was in Helsinki last year, he spoke about how players met in Fortnite not only to play, but to chat with one another, to watch other people play, and to have a shared experience. So here, games are building experiences that appeal to more than just core gamers as they reach out to a wider audience. And this is also true for non gaming events. Again, I'm based in Finland, and May 1st here in Finland is a cross between Labor Day and sort of the start of spring celebrations. Traditionally, people are out having picnics and celebrating in town. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that this year, but a Helsinki based VR company made an online May Day concert experience that was broadcast on YouTube. Now, I was in Hangouts for a work call when this started, and my connection kept dropping out. And we have really good internet here in Finland. I'd never experienced anything like this before. And I found out later that approximately 12.5% of the entire country was watching this live stream. More interesting for us is that 150,000 were actually interacting with the live stream, creating avatars and having fun online. It's interesting to note that it was a deliberate decision not to broadcast this on TV because they wanted the interactivity. Now, there's a long history of technological innovations creating new entertainment formats, particularly in video. But you don't have to be a huge company like Epic Games or have governmental funding to organize Miles. Genvid's technology is helping small and indie studios get in on the action and be part of a wave that brings the best aspects of lean back TV, lean in video gaming, and live entertainment all together. Here, the audience will matter, and the individual can decide their level of involvement or influence. And so I'll apologize to the people who aren't interested in sports, but it's a good analogy to explain what we're talking about because sports, like video games, have rules and objectives. And miles aren't exclusive to sports. Again, concert events and reality TV make great events that bring people together, but the examples in sports are just closer to video gaming. And so, in order for video games to be disruptive in the space, we need to look at some of the success that we've seen in traditional media. And traditional media has a service design that games don't really have, and that is a focus that is beyond just the player. We have a larger view of what it is to be a sports fan, and that's because there is an entire service design built around that. There are people playing in a physical stadium somewhere in the world, and people go and they pay money to go to that stadium and watch. And these people are paying the highest per capita. And then there's the largest demographic, which are people watching at home on TV. But there's a service design behind this that goes from player to participant to viewer, where the player is just a concentrator for the funnel. Now, if we juxtapose this to the digital world, video games in this case, you have people playing, the participant experience really doesn't exist, and then we jump to viewers. And the participant experience ends up being the core of what the viewer experience is built upon. If you are at the stadium and you have people that are the closest to the field and have the best access to the live players, and you have people at home that are watching facsimiles of that, different camera angles, zooming in to see different players, and there is a service design that allows viewers to enjoy that participant experience like as if they were at the stadium. And so, for the most part, in the digital world, we have jumped from the player experience to the viewer experience, and we are just watching the player view for everything, and that's really not the best way to do this. Right now, we have a growing underserved market, and that is the viewer. Historically, game developers have been focused on the players. They create great gaming experiences and know how to monetize them. And developers are just now starting to get comfortable with thinking of viewers as part of the ecosystem, which is why it's kind of exciting to be talking about this. Twitch had its best quarter ever in the first quarter of 2020, both in regards to hours watched and viewer counts on the platform. In terms of hours watched, Twitch jumped from 2.3 million to 3.1 million from the fourth quarter of 2019 to the first quarter of 2020. The average viewer count went from 1.2 million at the end of 2019 to 1.4 million in February, and then as high as 2.5 million in April. Now, clearly, the ongoing global pandemic caused a spike in viewership, but there was significant growth before COVID-19. Again, my apologies to the people in the audience who don't know anything about baseball, but in many ways, this highlights my point of why viewers are underserved. Most streaming experiences look something like this. Streamers can only broadcast from the player's perspective, and it is really difficult to follow what is happening in the game with just this view. Strategy, tactics, team coordination are all lost without giving the audience an understanding of the bigger picture. And I, as a viewer, if I'm watching a game on Twitch and I don't play that game myself, I usually don't have an idea of what's going on. As a result, it's not at all engaging. It's important to note that game developers, and not streamers, but game developers are in the best position to address viewership of their games. Game developers have the ability to put in new camera angles and create interactive experiences that address viewers. Professional sports are spectator-driven businesses, and game developers are only now starting to build spectator-centric value and tap into this audience. So we at Genvid are focused on that participant experience by creating a value-driven participant experience that has multiple layers of engagement where the viewer can affect what they are watching. We can create a really cool funnel that benefits everyone in the ecosystem, players, participants, and viewers. So again, think of the physical world. The players, they aren't paying. For the most part, they're being paid. Participants are paying the most, but they're having the most fun in the stadium. And it's because of this participant experience that they are able to create that viewer experience and drive most of the revenue through broadcast rights. Players are the core demographic that developers are thinking about today. They are basically the only monetized segment today. Interactive viewers, again, another way of saying participants, are an opportunity. Game developers make interactive experiences geared towards players, but there's an opportunity in making interactive experiences for viewers. And spectators benefit from an enhanced, more enjoyable, and more understandable experience that will help drive fandom and value. So what does this mean? People go to stadiums to enjoy that rich experience, and they get that through understanding the game or music if it's a concert. Um, they want to go to the event knowing that they are competent about what they are watching. And so here are ways that we can add value with enjoyment, competency, and fandom. On the left here, we have bird's eye camera angles and maps that can be toggled on and off and can provide viewers with the bigger picture. I can select a camera angle. I can pull up live stats that help me follow my favorite player or compare my favorite player against other fan favorites. Jumping to the middle screen, unlike sports, video games are constantly evolving. We live in a world of live ops, and the rules and the gameplay, they just change over time. It's really important to tell viewers what's going on so they understand what they're watching, and it's critical in order to help novices get into the experience. And then finally on the right, viewer interactions where the viewer can reach out and touch the game and affect what is happening by providing the player with a lifeline, maybe some extra health, or impeding them by setting traps. When talking about the different types of interactivity, we like to structure our thinking a little bit. So there are three different tiers. The first of which is informational. Again, this is giving viewers information. And the goal here is to have a competent viewer. So, like being able to adjust the volume on a traditional broadcast, you should be able to adjust things like stats and data and being able to toggle things on and off, like what's in the player's inventory or maps or where players are on those maps. This is just data that's sent along with the stream. The next tier is customizable. And this is the idea that you have different demographics and interest groups watching your game and giving each of them a native experience. So this could be a localized version in their language or just allowing them to cater information to a specific team or a specific player that the audience is interested in following. It could be something like giving different camera or different language options. In esports, we're already being segmented with, say, English or Korean specific channels. This helps create that home and away feeling with shoutcasters talking about different teams. Um, so the easiest way to think about this is custom cameras and data feeds with separate chat or cheering functions. Again, this is just a web overlay on top of video, so it's not hard to implement. And finally, and this is where game developers usually jump to first, and that's the influential tier. This is where viewers can reach out and touch the game and have an effect on the player experience, be it through cheering or something more impactful. It could be something nuanced, like cheering that buffs the NPCs or the boss character to make them more powerful, and viewers enjoy that, and players get better drops as a result, so they enjoy it. Um, or it could be super impactful, like buying a grenade and throwing it into the middle of the match and seeing what it does, or sending in supply drops and watching players race after the goods. We start with informational because it's the easiest to implement. It's just exposing data and putting in a web overlay. Customizable is a tier that takes time to figure out optimal camera angles, and it can be tricky working with developers who didn't necessarily create the entire world because the players wouldn't see it. And therefore, some of these blank spots might be exposed with viewer-centric cameras. So it's kind of better to address some of these issues earlier on in development. And then obviously the influential tier is the hardest one to implement. It takes a lot of time and effort to figure out player balance and enabling viewer inputs to affect the game in ways that it doesn't destroy the player experience. So why do it? Because if you build an audience and fandom, you can monetize it. Maybe this is a way to attract more players. Both informational and customizable tiers can be put behind a paywall or paid for by a sponsor or monetized through ads. And the influential tier also opens up the possibility of microtransactions where viewers could be buying consumables or cosmetics that affect their experience as well as everyone around them. And I should point out here that as of February 2020, 590 million bits have been cheered on Twitch. So this empowers viewers to become active participants in the ecosystem and helps drive the massive interactive live events that I was talking about earlier. Now, I'll be right back to demo two of our oldest games to give you a feel of what some of this looks like firsthand, and then I'll be followed by three developers who will share some of the exciting things that they've been working on. So I'll be right back. So this is CounterStrike Global Offense by Valve. CSGO is a 5-on-5 team-based multiplayer first-person shooter. The game pits terrorists against counter-terrorists while players also try to complete various objectives. Genvid powered the last three Counter-Strike majors and partnered with Stats Helix and Faceit to create Command Center, which is a premium product that is available during big tournaments. Command Center itself, which unfortunately I can't demo because there isn't a tournament happening right now, but you also have the option of selecting from any of the different player views, so you have basically 10 cameras to choose from. At the same time, you can see here that you've got players 5 on the left, 5 on the right.
This is an informational level that appears on top of everything. It provides information like active weapon. You can call up this player card, which gives you an idea of various statistics that the players have, and it's all in real time. Um, while that's informational, there are a number of things that are customizable, and here you can see that you can enable or disable things like cheering. There are a number of things at the hub that can be changed. There are things like the crosshair that defaults to white, but we can say change that to red. There's just a number of things that viewers can modify and change to how they want. You can see here how the crosshair is red. There's a scoreboard that you can pull up at any time. Normally, if you're watching a tournament, you have to wait for the shoutcasters to call these things out and let you know who's winning. This I can pull up anytime I want to. There's also a mini map, and the mini map gives us this sort of amazing bird's eye view of what's going on in the game. And again, this also helps us recreate that stadium feeling. So now I'm watching the game. I get more information than I would when I'm just watching from the player's perspective. I can see all these different players, what team they're on, what direction they're facing in, what weapon they have active. I can select a player like Kurt here. Kurt's player card now ends up in the upper left-hand corner. And like on the player card, there also is this clap button. When I clap for Kurt, I'm cheering for him, and you can see Kurt in the upper right-hand corner here. He has these red circles going around him, and shoutcasters can see that. They can call it out. You can see there's a slight halo around him. If we clap for him, that halo will get bigger. That means basically the default camera view for everybody that doesn't have the premium package, the default camera view would likely default to Kurt's view. I mentioned that there's a premium clap here. Premium claps can be bought from Twitch through Twitch for bits, and this again is another way to monetize the viewers. So again, this is a much more optimized way to watch Counter-Strike tournaments, and something that we're very proud of. So that's Counter-Strike.
So this is a Space Sweeper by Kengo Nakajima. He's based in Tokyo. It is a top-down twin-stick MMO shooter, and here players work to sort of clear up the planet, collect resources, build structures to defend themselves, and then use weapons to fend off against a number of enemies. You can already see that a number of players are dying, and a couple more will die as I go through this demo. Here you can see there's a research new technology area here. There's some fortresses kind of around. It's a rather complex game, and it's actually kind of a stressful bullet hell game for the players that are playing. Nakajima-san didn't want to take the CSGO approach of trying to make things more understandable to the viewers, but rather engage them in a different way. And he does that um, by creating these little purple spirals, these anger points. If I mouse over them, I'm getting anger points. What they are, when a player kills an NPC, that little purple vortex represents the dead soul of the NPC. With the anger points, however, I can now go to this store, this inventory of things, and I can deploy things that are useful to the player, resources or weapons or this sort of thing, actually into the game. So if I select a couple of these soil debris elements, um, we'll see what happens. There's a design hack here since we're dealing with a little bit of latency. Um, the resources will be delivered by drones that will come in from outside of the screen, and you'll see viewer 484. Here they come in now. So viewer 484, they're dropping my soil debris resources into the game. So the players can actually see the viewers that are actually supporting them in their effort. It's from a design perspective, I find this game fascinating because you've got a very stressful game. You've got four players that are all competing against each other. Um, and then I, as a viewer, I'm having this very casual experience collecting all of these elements. This is a special version that was done for the Tokyo Game Show last fall. The original version was basically just one player, and the inventory, the store here had things that were both good for the player, like the resources now, and ultimately bad for the player, like a swarm of bees and other sort of bad things that could be deployed against the player. Um, but here you had four players competing against each other at the Tokyo Game Show, and then you had 20 streamers that were all collaboratively working with one another
collecting all the resources, calling out like, "Hey, player number 3 needs more resources," and it was just interesting to see the dichotomy between the players and the viewers, as well as the interplay that you have developed here. So, Space Sweeper by Kengo Nakajima.
Now we'll listen to 3 case studies. We've invited 3 studios that have implemented Genvid's SDK into their games to share their experiences working with the tech and talk about how it's helped them expand or shape their games and their vision, to talk about new forms of play that it has unlocked for them and the challenges that they encountered and how they overcame them, along with some of the exciting things they have coming up in their roadmap. We'll start with Denis Dyack from Apocalypse Studios, followed by Robin Squire from Black Block, and close with Julian Huguet from Impeller Studios.
Hi everyone, my name is Denis Dyack. I am the CEO of Apocalypse, and I'm here to talk about Deadhouse Sonata and our implementation of Genvid, where we're bringing back people to the early days of the Greek theater. And Deadhouse Sonata is a free-to-play action RPG where you play the undead fighting the living. So you're playing liches, vampires, revenants, ghouls, all in a traditional action RPG setting that's cloud first, and we're doing some very interesting and innovative things. We have really 3 pillars that we're working towards for Deadhouse Sonata. The first one is that it's a narrative-driven action RPG. Most of the games I'm known for, Eternal Darkness, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, Two Human, are very narrative-driven. Twin Snakes, Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, all of these games have a strong narrative component, and Deadhouse Sonata is also going to be the same. Another pillar is interactive streaming, which is what I'm going to be here to talk about, talking about how we utilize Genvid to do some very interesting things. And then the last is community-driven content and design, where we actually have the community contributing to the game design and content. So let's talk about the Genvid integration. Our goal from the beginning was to do something that was very revolutionary and changed the way people play games. As a matter of fact, Apocalypse Studios was formed around this whole core idea that the medium is the message, and the message in the gaming industry has changed. We've gone from the single-player games where you'd sit in front of a TV and take in all the content in pretty much a linear fashion that you would in a traditional film or book or music sense, to multiplayer games where narrative disappeared for a while and PvP became the big thing, to where we're at now with this new technology with Genvid and interactive streaming, to meta players where the audience can actually participate in real time like you once did in the Greek theaters. So in our work, we really did 2 tests. One was an example of interactive streaming where a streamer can take over as the dungeon master. And as you can see here with some of these videos, you can set off traps, help open doors, help the player get through the level. And another where we have something that has a much bigger meta effect on the game itself. We have an election that changes the entire server for all the players in the game. So one is more instance-based with the dungeon master, and the other is at the election side. And the Dungeon Master, the implementation was very successful, and it allowed us to interact real time, and people could play the game. So through Twitch, which was fantastic in what we wanted to do. So what did we learn from all of this? Well, one of the things that I learned particularly, that the fundamental understanding of metagaming concepts can only come through by implementation. We learned a lot, and our perception of how we can do things actually changes the more you work with it. So saying you want to do a cloud-first approach is really cool, but actually implementing it changes the way that you think and allows you to go on to the next level. So what we looked at with our current implementation, we found that the implementation worked real time with the Dungeon Master, but having large amounts of camera rotation with the latency and lag actually made control a little difficult. So for our next rounds of implementation, we're going to remove the camera rotation and have it more like a fixed perspective, isometric camera where there's no camera rotation, allow you to select things with less difficulty with your internet connection. So that was pretty cool. Also, we learned conveying these concepts through video is really, really hard because creating the videos is one thing, but actually trying it out and seeing how it works is a totally different thing, which is generally the thing with video games. So that shouldn't have come as a surprise. What are we working on next? Well, this is something we're very excited about. So we're going to improve the Dungeon Master. We're gonna try a couple modes. One more like a top-down map view that you would get, avoiding any possible problems, so you can get a general overview of the entire board. And another is removing the camera rotation and having it more like a isometric game, so it will look really nice, except we just removed the camera rotation, which was a technical problem that we didn't anticipate. We're going to try some ideas with monetization, and then we're also going to try some things with narrative implementation where the audience can actually influence the narrative. We think these things are really cool. We cannot wait to see how they turn out. Thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate your time.
So we're Black Block, we're a Helsinki-based game development studio, and we're working on mobile-first connected open worlds. I'm Robin Squire, I'm the CEO. I've been working in games now for roughly 10 years. And we're building our first title, which is Retroit. So Retroit is a massive open world. It's set in an always online city. It's a sandbox city where every vehicle is driven by a real player. So that's really the grand ambition that we have. So we want to have essentially a mobile-first sandbox MMO. So mobile first is really our kind of primary goal. We're building for mobile device users first and foremost. They're such a huge opportunity for so many people to play this game that we're prioritizing the sort of simple and accessible design that comes with successful mobile games. But we're kind of fusing that with the ambition to build a persistent, seemingly endless open world city that you can just drive across for hours, and where thousands of players can coexist in the same space at the same time. So that's kind of typically a goal you would see on PC or console platforms, but we're really trying to tackle that from a mobile first perspective. We're also looking at cross-platform, so we see platforms as almost like additional entry points into the same world, and they can be native to those platforms. And that's really where our work with Genvid on the interactive live stream functionality comes in. So the Genvid integration itself, what we're really just trying to do is leverage their tech to build an additional entry point into that same world. So the world lives on servers, it lives on the back end, it's always online. So, why not build a Twitch stream that's like a window into that world? So you can jump on and watch the players, watch people doing missions or engaging with each other in real time. So we've built this Retroit XYZ news channel. So it kind of gives you 24/7 coverage of the city. You can take a quick look, and you can have, you have the news ticker at the bottom with sort of the updates, and you have these CCTV cameras that you can sort of hop around between and observe the world from these different angles. But then you actually have items you can drop in the world. So we're allowing viewers to actually engage with the players down below who will be playing on their mobile devices, on their iPhone or their Android. So we can see here a car just hit that giant soccer ball I dropped into the world. We can also drop, for example, a giant piñata at an intersection, which can block players, and it sort of explodes on impact and pushes people back. And then we have my favorite one, which is the cash truck. So your kind of security van. And that will actually drive around. It's AI controlled, and anyone who crashes into that will earn cash. So you can see here the cars are just sort of nudging that vehicle, and cash is falling out of it, and they're earning $10 for every time they crash into it. So it's kind of like a moving target for people who are actually playing the game. This is the helicopter camera in action. So this sort of pans over the world, viewing it from a high up bird's eye perspective, which is a perspective actually that only really exists on this Twitch stream. Okay, so really that's what we wanted to do with this first integration. And when we were building that, some of the lessons we learned were really around how do we do this at scale. So we feel we're extremely successful in building a sort of demo that works with one viewer. When you start to actually put multiple viewers in front of that, then it gets a bit tricky. It's kind of like giving 3 people a television remote to one television. You'll watch them try and sort of switch between cameras or drop items, and no one really knows who's controlling what, and it's jerking between all of the different interaction points. So what we really have learned from that is the need to design for multiple viewers watching and interacting at the same time. So in terms of what next, so we're out to really tackle that challenge now. So it was successful for a single viewer, but what about when we design it for multiple viewers? What about when we design it for 10 viewers, 100 viewers, more than 100 viewers? How will it scale? So we're currently now looking at ways for viewers to switch cameras independently from one another. So one person can be looking through camera 1 while the other can be looking through camera 2, and they can be hopping around without changing the channel for everyone else. We're also looking at dishing out currency as part of mini games that exist on the stream. So this would allow people to earn cash in a wallet and actually spend that on the items that they're dropping into the world. So that's something that's kind of a long-term goal for us. We want people to have deeper, more meaningful interactions via the live streams, but also it helps solve the issue of multiple viewers dropping items into the world at the same time. It kind of limits the spam. And then also the final thing we're really looking at is closer integration of the mobile and the live streaming platform experiences. So currently they're on separate servers. We want to put them on the same server, so the people in the world playing on their mobile devices will see those balls being dropped into the world. They'll see the piñatas and the cash trucks, and vice versa. The people watching the stream will actually now see these interesting player dynamics from the people on the ground. They'll see the police chases and the garbage trucks collecting garbage and all of these kind of interesting things that come from the job economy that we've been putting in place. So that's really something that until we integrate those two experiences, it's very hard to predict how it will work out. So we're really keen to see that. So those are the things that we're looking at. Thank you very much.
Hi there, I'm Julian Huguet representing Impeller Studios, and I'm here today to talk about how we partnered with Genvid Technologies to bring a new dimension into our space combat simulator, In the Black. While the game is a spiritual successor to the beloved X-Wing series that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, In the Black takes hardcore dogfighting among the stars to new frontiers. We have rigorously applied real-world physics that govern how objects move and how materials behave to every facet of the game. The number of missiles you can carry is dictated by how many hardpoints are actually on your ship. And we've built a modular component damage system, which means players can whittle away at an enemy's capabilities or have their own subsystems disabled. If players are going to become a 23rd century ace, they'll have to master their ship's weapons and Newton's 3 laws. Our players take on the roles of spacefaring mercenaries, accepting contracts from mega corporations looking to gain an edge over their competitors. Some of these missions can be done by solo pilots, but the real money and challenge comes in the form of multiplayer battles with as many as 10 players aside, each piloting anything from scouts to frigates and everything in between. But what kind of future space mercenaries would we be if we didn't find a way to broadcast these death matches to our adoring fans as another source of revenue? That is why we have partnered with Genvid. Using the Genvid SDK, we can give live-streamed matches of In the Black a new dynamic. Viewers can cheer for and reward their favorite pilots, they can bet on the outcome of a match, or they can put a bounty on the head of some hotshot pilot that's just asking for a railgun slug. Viewers can have a real impact on the course of a match when the reward they offer is too good to pass up, causing strategies to unravel as pilots break off to chase down a bounty. Now, we didn't originally envision these features for In the Black, but as soon as Impeller Studios saw what Genvid brought to our game, we knew it had to be a part of it. Genvid's turnkey solution is compatible with all major game engines and streaming platforms. It was easy to integrate, and it added features that otherwise would have added a year or more to our production timeline. Really, the biggest time investment on our side was building AI to show off what viewers would get out of interacting with a multiplayer match. After that, it was a matter of packaging up the data and sending it to Genvid, who also did a lot of the heavy lifting on their end to troubleshoot issues like why bounties weren't showing up and things like that. Working with Genvid was really easy for us. And this healthy partnership means we have some ambitious plans for what we can do with Genvid. We started off at what we dubbed Tier 3, which was a pretty basic implementation. When viewers tuned in, they could see a tactical map of the match, and from there, they could switch to views of individual players for more detailed info like ship loadout, kills, deaths, and so on. Tier 3 helped us learn about what was a whole new dynamic for us. We had to learn a few lessons, like how to design a UI that gave viewers the sense that they were a part of what was happening. As we started adding ways viewers can impact the game, we also realized we had to be mindful about how much the viewers can affect the match. We want them to feel like they're influencing the action without going too far and ruining the experience for the player. We have since started implementing features for Tier 2. In Tier 2, we can give viewers a really detailed look at all the information available about a player, like the thermal status of their vehicle, the G-forces acting on the pilot, how much propellant they're using, really nitty-gritty stuff like that. We can also let viewers become a part of the match by setting bounties or betting on players. Our end vision is Tier 1 that marries the potential of Genvid with the depth of In the Black. Along with all the features of the previous 2 tiers, we imagine they can trigger events like debrief fields or AI raiders, or purchase in-game benefits for their favorite team, giving them an edge, like in the Hunger Games. We also imagine viewers will have the ability to interact with the subsystems of each player's ship, determining what gets repaired first and what gets priority power consumption. They can basically either become a player's personal Scotty or act as malicious gremlins. We'd also like to incorporate Genvid into game modes beyond multiplayer. For example, our single-player CyberStrike mode could pit viewers against the player if we allowed the audience to vote where AI security drones spawn and where they hunted. We could also create a PvE horde mode where viewers select the enemies that will make up each wave and thus the difficulty. Will players get a pass with easy enemies, or will their audience show no mercy and send top-tier baddies at them relentlessly? Really, it's in the viewer's hands. We believe a live stream solution that immerses and engages viewers to the point of giving viewers actual agency in the game, even if they don't have the game installed, is critical to building a community and filling up our corner of space. Genvid lets us do that, and based on how players and viewers respond, we may alter our game and add new ways for the audience to impact the action. Really, with Genvid, space is the limit. If you have any questions about Impeller's experience with Genvid, please feel free to contact us at support@impellerstudios.com. As you can tell, we are big fans of this technology, and we are happy to help others explore if it's right for them. Thanks for watching.
Many thanks to Denis Dyack from Apocalypse Studios, Robin Squire from Black Block, and Julian Huguet from Impeller Studios. Those were great presentations, guys. In conclusion, it's still early days, but there's a lot of potential. Again, developers are in the driving seat, and I personally can't wait to see what ingenious ideas the developers out there in the audience will come up with next. Thank you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is right here on this slide. Our SDK is available to download from our website for free. We're also available for meetings at our virtual booth, so I hope that we'll connect with you there, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.